Howdy there folks, this is Lapidary Dave, and right now I wanted to make a quick video on finding lapidary and jewelry making tools at Harbor Freight. I wanted to make a video about Harbor Freight because there's usually one or two in every big city and sometimes even in some rural places like here in New Mexico. One of the most commonly purchased lapidary-ish tools you could get at Harbor Freight would be their tile saws. Tile saws can be used like a trim saw. You can even sometimes put on trim saw blades depending on the size of the tile saw. The 4.5-inch version, or maybe it's just 4-inch version, is going for $58. The 7.5 version is going for $60. So, the 7.5 version is just a better deal. They also have the type that have that movable table so you can slide the stone right up under there, which is cool. Some people use like that canned foam stuff to lock in the stone in place, and then you can like swivel it right underneath the blade with those table type. They also have tile saw blades, which is very good. I highly suggest the continuous kind instead of the segmented kind, which could definitely hurt your finger. The continuous kind will not. This one looks kinda like it's centered. $30, not too bad. If you're in a pinch and you don't have time to wait to order some trim saw blades, you could easily use a tile saw blade on your 8-inch trim saw, or you could use a 4-inch blade on your 6-inch trim saw. You're going to lose some size there, but it will help in a pinch. Also, if you don't have a tile saw, you could put these on angle grinders and do all kinds of fun, dangerous stuff to get your stone cut. When you got to cut the stone, you got to cut the stone. This is the segmented kind. Those could be dangerous, so just get the continuous kind. So one thing that you could do with tile saws that is a little bit more than just cutting is you could take off the table. This one has a little box where you would have to take off to change the blade, but you could take off the table and take off that box and actually use a tile saw as a flat lap. So if you already have a tile saw, you can go to Harbor Freight and buy another tile saw to take it apart to use as a flat lap. This is from a video that I'm making. This one was plastic, I had to break it to make it work. This 4-inch version actually looks like it might have the same size arbor, and it might be a little bit easier to convert into a flat lap. One can find used flat laps very affordably, so this is kind of just like last resort. Here is probably the most common large Harbor Freight saw that I see being used. I see all kinds of YouTubers use that other type of saw. Here is a fancier version. I don't know if it's more power or what's going on with it, but it's kind of pushing it in price. You can definitely get a 10-inch trim saw for less than $450. So, the Harbor Freight Tumbler. I think everybody has probably heard about this. They come in a 2-barrel version and a single-barrel version. They have updated and upgraded this machine a few different times in the past years. I have a slightly older model. I prefer the 2-barrel over the single-barrel. This is my old machine. She has seen better days, but she's still kicking. Harbor Freight also sells tumbling media, but this one didn't have any. The single barrel is nice because you don't have to have both barrels running if you just need one barrel to polish something. This one is $47 for the single and $57 for the double. Harbor Freight also sells vibratory tumblers. These are not really designed for tumbling rocks, but more designed for tumbling like tools to clean them up, and bullet casings for recycling and making your own bullets and such. I have had a friend that did some upgrades. I'm not exactly sure what she did, but she upgraded the machine in a way to where it wasn't so leaky and she could polish rocks with this machine, but even still, it was really messy. These are designed to use 2 different kinds of medias. Harbor Freight sells bench grinders. These are definitely not for lapidary work. I have a good friend who lives in the Navajo reservation out there in Arizona that is currently using one of these to preform his stones. It can be very dangerous and I do not recommend them. But on these bigger bench grinders, you can use like felt pads, cotton pads, and use them to polish your gemstones. And they're great for that. Harbor Freight sells different kinds of polishing pads, and it seems like they come with their own little washers there, which is very cool. I lose those all the time, and that's bad news. I don't think anyone needs a gigantic one. Maybe you do, but I like the smaller ones myself. This one is $52. I didn't really see how fast these are spinning. I would want my jewelry polisher to spin at least, I think, 3250 RPM. Pretty cool. I'm happy that they sell these. They're very affordable. I have also seen people in the past use these arbors as pulley motors. They put on little pulley arbors and they use them to power their pulley-driven lapidary machines. Here are some grinding wheels. These are not silicon carbide. I think they're aluminum oxide or something. I'm not exactly sure. These are not traditionally used for lapidary. I don't know if anyone has ever used them in the past. I love silicon carbide hard wheels. I'll be making a video on that shortly. Here is an ultrasonic cleaner. You can do all different kinds of things with this, but recently I had a very good friend named Ed from the UK that uses these to clean up his crystal specimens. This is a $77.99. He did tell me that you can leave crystal specimens in there too long and it'll actually damage or destroy the crystal. So be wary. I have never done any ultrasonic cleaning on crystals, but I do plan on doing it sometime soon. And I'll make a video of it when I do. It's just cool that they have them. And this, my friends, is why I came to Harbor Freight. The gentleman told me that they didn't have any, but they did. This is the Harbor Freight Flex Shaft. I think it's about $50. I wanted to get this machine to show folks that you can do a lot of the same things that you can do with this $50 flex shaft that you could do with a big fancy Fordham tool. I had one of these really cheap flex shafts in the past. I believe it might have been the same flex shaft, just painted different and relabeled for Harbor Freight. I actually left it outside in the rain and it stopped working, so I gave the handpiece to Ruben. This machine has the hook to hold the flex shaft up above the work area. You don't really want to lay these down when you work. It'll flip-flop everywhere. Yep, $49.99, a very good deal for a flex shaft. Cheaper Fordhams are not too much more than this, but I wanted to get this tool because it's the everyman flex shaft, you know, Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight sells diamond cutoff discs. If you don't have a big fancy trim saw, you can actually use a rotary tool and trim up slabs of stone using these tools. I have a lot of friends that do that. My grandfather uses it all the time. These are little rotary tool diamond wheels. You can kind of use them as a very small diamond hard wheel like you would find on a big lapidary machine. I'm going to pick up one of these and make a video of it in the future. And it actually includes a V wheel. That would be really good for some carving. I'm going to see what my grandpa, Master Medina, can do with them. Harbor Freight sells these little stone wheels. You could do some lapidary stuff with them on softer stones like serpentine and soapstone, but not really good for agates and such, in my opinion. And they have these little tiny cotton felt wheels that are perfect for polishing using compounds. I have used hard ones in the past that came with rotary tools and they didn't really work. This accessory kit is kind of rubbish in my opinion when it comes to lapidary. It's probably better suited just for like other kinds of hobbies like plastic work and maybe some wood stuff. Harbor Freight also sells angle grinder diamond cups. You can actually preform stones with this. There are videos on YouTube of folks all over the world, India, Mexico, and China, using these to preform their stones. Sometimes they do them dry. This is actually not a diamond one. This is some kind of carbide, so it's most likely not going to be good for lapidary work. But the diamond ones are great. You can use them on wet angle grinders. You can figure out some kind of watering system. It might not be the safest. But In all of the different sizes, the width of the diamond is about the same. So might as well buy the cheapest one. I'm sure it's going to spin fast enough. Angle grinders usually spin faster than lapidary grinders to begin with. Yeah, it could probably be a little dangerous, so be careful if you do, but people do it. Here are some diamond rotary burrs. Looks like the larger the burr, the larger the shank, so the biggest one will not fit in probably casual Dremels and like rotary tools and stuff, but the little one is nice. You could probably fit the 3 on the right in a casual Dremel. I like to drill using flat cylinder burrs, so those are pretty cool, but I'm not going to pick them up for $5. Yeah, it's just kind of not worth it. You can get a better set for about the same price online. None of these tools tell you what grit the diamond is on the machine, on the wheels. So Harbor Freight Rotary Tools. It's funny, if you look at the picture, someone's about to take like a stone burr to a beautiful piece of jewelry. That's probably not a good idea. I don't know what this person in the picture was planning on doing, but it's probably just like a studio picture. They're not doing anything. They have a slightly cheaper wired, like plug-in-the-wall style rotary tool. I don't like these as much. They can tend to have more power, and of course they're not gonna like die on you in the middle of a project, but I do prefer the battery version. You can get a little bit more maneuverability. You can take it with you if you need to drill holes somewhere that you don't have the means to plug in the wall. And one of the most common diamond product being sold at Harbor Freight are the 50-piece diamond rotary point set. I think these are about 100 grit. There's all different kinds of shapes and sizes of these burrs. They're $20 and they sell out very quick. Maybe not the best deal, but when it comes to diamond burrs and Harbor Freight, they are a pretty good buy. You get all different kinds of burrs, and it's kind of it's nice to just have on hand for whatever you need. You can drill a lot of different things using this particular set. You can get some carving done. You can get some preforming grinding done using the cylinder ones. I think they're coated on top. And it's just a shame that they weren't here. I would have picked up a set to show you folks in a video, but maybe another time. Sandpaper. Harbor Freight sells silicon carbide wet and dry sandpaper, which is very cool, since a lot of hardware stores that sell loose leaf sandpaper usually are sold out of their roughest and their finest grits. Harbor Freight has some of the best deals I've seen on silicon carbide sandpaper. I picked up an assortment. I think it was like $200, $500, $1,000, and $1,200. These water pumps are pretty cool. Folks use these for all different kinds of lapidary, like stuff for watering your wheels. And I know a gentleman who works for the Gunther company that uses these to water his water swivel. Pretty handy. They have a smaller one that probably has more than enough pressure to, get the job done. These are pretty cool. Harbor Freight also sells water pumps, which are used for watering systems and such. Less and less people that I know are starting to recycle and recirculate their water because they don't want the contamination, and it can also probably just damage your pump. But yeah, it's cool that they have these. These larger ones are definitely overkill. I think their cheapest one is more than strong enough for casual lapidary work. It's cool that they have these here. So, this epoxy putty stick, I actually learned from a Navajo gentleman about this stuff for backing stones, mostly turquoise. You put it on the back and it kind of stabilizes the stone if it's fragile. And yeah, it's pretty clever, pretty cool. It looks good. There's this 2-part super weld. It might be the same thing in a 2-part putty, so you probably get a little bit more, but you have to do a little bit more work. Yeah, good for backing stones. I would not buy Harbor Freight epoxy. I've had this stuff in the past and it's really weak. Plastex. So, I was at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show chatting with a gentleman who was selling amber. And while we were chatting about what is the best way to polish amber, a biker came up to me and he said, "Do you want to know the best way to polish amber?" And I said, "Of course." He said, "Meguiar's Plastex headlight cleaner. It treats the amber like if it was plastic, and you wipe it away with a little bit of friction, and it leaves a perfect polish. And you only need to preform to about 600 or 1,000. All right, these doming blocks are very cool. You can dome rounded things. This punch is really cool to make perfect little discs that you can then dome for like concha work and such, making belt buckles, smaller little concha, discs. Here's some stamps. These are not the best, but they totally do work. Harbor Freight has a couple different sizes of them. You can, stamp 925 on something. You could stamp your initials. They're flat so that you can hold them close together. But yeah, they're definitely not the best. The doming block here is a really cool deal, but the rest of the stuff you can probably find other places more affordably. So Harbor Freight has files and rasps. You can use these for all different kinds of metal work and even some softer stone work such as catlinite and soapstones. They are very affordable, however they are very gummy, and you might have a problem when working something that's very hard tempered, like if you have some hard tempered copper, bronze, or brass. You get what you pay for big time with these tools, but they are nice for the money for sure. Yep, all different kinds. I really like the rasps, great for woodwork. They also sell lathing chisels. These are very cheap. I haven't used those, but I know folks who have. My grandfather has used them. He sharpens them better than they come out of the package. Harbor Freight also sells little wood chisels. I love these. I use only like 2 or 3 of the little gouges, like a V and the sweep gouges and stuff, but it's nice to be able to find these without going to a specialty shop. They are cheap, you have to sharpen them, but they're fun and they're very good price. Good stuff. So Harbor Freight sells vices. Some of these vices have little anvils on the back of them, but the steel is pretty gummy. These vices can go for 5 times the price if you get them name brand. You might get some dings here and there in them from hammering harder things, but I think they're definitely worth the money. They do not have interchangeable teeth though, like plastic and rubber. These vices here are great for using with a drill press. You can put them in a bucket of water. If you watch my video on making stone rings, when I'm coring out, I use those. This is the last anvil here. I should have bought it, but I didn't buy it. This steel is very gummy. You'll get dings, but it's an anvil. They are totally essential. I love them. These little table vices are really nice. Good for like holding your flex shaft or your rotary tool if you need to use both of your hands. This one connects to the end of a table and is even better. Has a tiny little anvil, totally usable though for stamping 925 or your initials or something on a piece of silver or whatnot. I'm happy that they sell these. So they have drill presses. My first drill press that I bought myself was this little 8-speed, I think 8-inch drill press. It's super cheap. Has a few speeds, but very cheap. I should have saved up and got a little bit better one because I was using it with my water swivel, which needs a little bit more precision than the jittery Harbor Freight drill press had to offer. Very, very wobbly, but super good for wood or whatever you have. Not very good for milling. They have these upgraded ones here that kind of stand up. These are definitely more precise. They are, quite a bit more money, but this would have been a better purchase. The chuck is just so much finer than the other cheap ones. I do a lot of drilling using my water swivel, which is the chuck that goes in the chuck of a drill press, and they're very cool. The medium-sized one and the larger, leg drill press came with this little reservoir. You could put water in there, which would be perfect if you're doing some kind of coring or some kind of drilling with not using a water swivel. It is absolutely clever. I wish they sold those by themselves, but they don't. and the smallest one doesn't even have one. But that's really cool. I guess you could put some kind of lubricant in there if you were like drilling metal or something. And these higher quality ones that stand up by themselves have 3 pulleys, where the cheap ones only have 2. So I imagine you get, more speed control out of the higher quality ones than these cheaper ones. I wouldn't touch that grease. Definitely known by the state of California to cause cancer. I did end up selling my drill press that I got from Harbor Freight for like $20 on Craigslist when I bought a slightly better skill drill press. And then I had a very good friend named Colin Jenkinson that I play in a band with, who gave me his dad's old Craftsman. Nitrile gloves. I love nitrile gloves. I use them for lapidary work. It seems like at first they were only letting people buy 2 packages of these nitrile gloves. They're all gone. They donated them to the local hospital, which is a super cool idea. Very nice. Unlike nylon and latex, nitrile almost seems to hydroplane off of diamond wheels, so they don't get all eaten up. I don't use them to save my fingers. I use them to keep my hands dry. Since I'm a musician, I need to have dry hands. I hate getting prunes. Goggles, a absolute must when doing lapidary. I did not wear these enough when I was starting off. I've definitely had chips fly in my eyes. I had a friend tell me that a friend of his actually went to the doctor because he was having eye problems, and they told him that he had little chips of stone in his eyeball. Your eyes heal really fast, and they just kind of grew over the stone. Yeah, you gotta wear the goggles when you're sawing or when you're even grinding. You should just wear goggles all the time. Get used to it. It's uncomfortable at first, but it will save your eyes. It is a must. Harbor Freight sells these blast cabinets. I think some people use these for like sandblasting and such. I've seen people in the past that like carve with rotary tools or flex shafts use these so they don't get contaminated by the poisonous dust. I've also seen people in the past make these out of like plastic totes so they don't get exposed to the dust. These are, pretty pricey for what they would do in the lapidary world, so it's probably easier to make some yourself, but they look good and they're fun. Harbor Freight also sells polishing compounds. I don't really know if these are color coordinated. A lot of white compounds are aluminum oxide. Red is like red jeweler's rouge. On the back, I think they just call it like white rouge and red rouge. I'm not too sure. If it is aluminum oxide and it is red rouge, that is great that they are selling it at Harbor Freight. I buy a lot of aluminum oxide for my gem polishing, and the red rouge is good for silversmithing and such. They also have these colored bars. I've seen online that there is like a color coordinated system for compounds that people use for polishing metals. I don't know if the green bar here is similar to the green rouge that a lot of people use, like Zam compound or whatnot. If they are color coordinated, then the black bar usually is the roughest grit, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen black compound bars in the past that actually have like pumice in them. I've used a few different metal polishing compounds in the jewelry world in the past. When I was in college, I used like the black for roughing out some metal stuff when I was taking some jewelry classes, but I really don't know. On these compounds, they have a few different descriptions on what they could be used for, but it's really tough to tell what they could be used for in the lapidary world. If you ever read Fabuluster or Zam compounds, I think Zam might mention turquoise, but Fabuluster mentions like brass and bronze and metal and steel and such. So there are some metal compounds that are definitely good for polishing lapidary stones, even if they don't mention them. I really don't know about these compounds at Harbor Freight. I probably should have picked up the green one. Anyway, so that was my Harbor Freight video. I hope this helps you out, inspires you to go to Harbor Freight and buy some tools yourself. I didn't get a lot of things. If I forgot anything that you folks can think of, that would be helpful for lapidaries and drawers that you can find at Harbor Freight, please feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'm sure I missed a few things, and I think I could even think of a couple things that Harbor Freight sells that could help lapidaries and jewelers. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. I have many more videos lined up in the works. Going to be coming at you very soon. Anyway, love you. See you soon.